Well, we're back, and we're talking about condemning. And the thing of it is we need to stop condemning these children. In order for us to lift them up, we must stop condemning them. What do you think about that, Bob?
Well, you know, as we work with kids that are in trouble with the justice system and with the law, and kids in jail, frankly, it's easy to label them as if they're somehow second-class citizens, which, by the way, you are not. And the fact that you happen to be in trouble with the legal system tends to, I think, have more to do with the luck of the draw than it does with your character. Frankly, I have more respect for most of the kids I meet in jail than a lot of the kids I meet out on the street, and that includes kids from a stable home. The reason I respect them so much is most, if not all of you, have been handed a very bad deck of cards to deal with. And the fact that you're acting out is to your credit, frankly. I respect people that will act up and you're basically saying, I'm not going to sit back and take the hand I was dealt. I'm going to fight it. The problem is you're fighting it in the wrong way and you're just digging a deeper hole. So what we try and do is come alongside you and bring you the tools to make better choices, better decisions, and get a more stable foundation on it.
Yes.
I got to a point dealing with young people in the justice system where I would rather be sitting with them in jail on a Friday night than out for dinner with my wife, because I've developed such affection and respect for the people I've met in there. And there are very few people that I met in that system that aren't smart and aren't capable of building a better life for themselves if they have the right tools. And so we're trying to come alongside and provide the information and the tools and the advice and the guidance you need to make good choices, to act on those choices, and to persist in it. One of the problems is that when you act out, you end up acting out in the wrong way. And that's going to dig you into a deeper hole by and large. So what we're trying to do is provide you with tools and guidance to help you to make better choices and to act on them. One of the things that we have observed over the years, and I've sat in front of probably a couple thousand kids, and Harrison sat in front of hundreds of them, we're talking and gearing this video towards root causes.
Yes, there's always a root.
And the major root cause we've observed with young people that are in trouble is this whole concept of trauma, being traumatized and not being able to properly work through it. And when you're hit with one trauma on top of another, sooner or later most people check out. Meaning, instead of facing their problems and trying to work through them, they try and find a way to manipulate their mood in the short term to escape the pain. And that's where you really dig a hole for yourself and you set yourself on a pathway that's not going to end well. If you're running to drugs or sex or alcohol or thrill seeking, you may be out stealing cars. These are all things that manipulate your mood in the short term. The problem with it, other than it can get you into trouble immediately, is in the long term, initially these are choices. I'm having a bad day, I grab a beer or two.
Yes.
Having a bad day, I have a couple more beers. At some point, that stops becoming a choice and it becomes a reflex. And at the point it becomes a reflex, you're now dealing with the fountainhead of addiction. Yes. And that gives you a whole other set of problems.
That's just another problem. Yes.
And in the meantime, you're checking out and you're not solving life's problems. So you need to understand, if you're getting stuck in this grieving process, that you need to find healthy ways to work through it. And that means you need to reach out for help. One of the things that you're not is a victim.
That's right.
Okay. Most of the young people we meet at some point are tempted to accept the victim label.
That why me? That why me?
Yep. I've been dealt a bad hand, there's nothing that I can do about it, and this is just the way I am. I can't fix myself. As soon as you accept that label of a victim, what you've actually done is you've decided to wait for somebody else to fix your problems for you, and that's not going to happen. At some point you've got to take the initiative and start making choices, and to make those choices you need information, good solid information.
Yes, I agree.
There's three things every young person needs, and I think most adults still need, and those three things are structure, stability, and security. And I think every time you're traumatized, and beyond that, every time you're about to make a choice, you need to ask yourself, how is this choice going to affect those three pillars that I need? If you're a product of divorce and a broken home and a number of moves and the other things that traumatize people, guess what? Those three pillars are being disrupted.
Yes.
And nobody's going to put them back in order for you. You're going to have to take the initiative to fix your own life. I used to ask these kids, how many of you think your social worker or your attorney is going to fix your life for you? And they laugh at me.
Pretty much, yes.
Yeah. The point being, as soon as you accept the label of victim, you have surrendered control of your life to someone else, and you don't even know who that someone else is. So it's important to recognize that you're going to need to take the initiative and make good choices and reach out to people. Your peers, by and large, aren't going to fix your life for you. They're in the same boat that you are for the most part.
Pretty much.
I've got great friends, but I don't always go to them for advice because some of them are as dumb as I am. And so I look for people that I can respect and trust.
Yes, that's the key.
And I try and get them to come alongside and walk with me. And as a young person, you can do the same thing. One of the things that helps in terms of rebuilding these pillars of security, structure, and security, and this is probably key, is to find your gifts and your passions.
I agree.
And contrary to what you're taught in the public school system, the world didn't make itself up out of nothing. Evolution is nonsense. It doesn't even measure up to its own scientific standards. And by the way, science itself is not God. Science is simply man's efforts to understand natural law and how things work. And the fact is that natural law was set up by design by our Creator God. Amen. And everything that Harrison and I are involved in has a foundational underpinning, which is to come back into a proper relationship with God and start trusting Him with the elements of our life and bringing and coming alongside of people who also believe God.
Yes.
God has delegated to mankind the capacity to make moral choices. Animals don't get to decide between right and wrong.
That's right.
They operate on instinct and essentially in reflex. We are higher beings than animals. God says we are created just a little lower than the angels.
That's right.
And we are designed to come into a relationship with God. And the foundation of that relationship is to be able to make moral choices between right and wrong based upon, first of all, our conscience prompting us as to what's right and wrong.
Yes.
And kind of waking us up.
That's
and
right.
then looking to the Bible once we're awake to say, okay, what does God have to say about this and how does it work? And what we're talking about here is not a list of rules to keep.
No.
Nobody wants to be marching around with somebody behind them with a bayonet in their back. What we're talking about is the principles of how God has designed us. One of those principles, and the Bible speaks to this, the Bible and God tells us that sin tends to be passed on to the third and the fourth generation.
Yes.
Meaning, when you say, why am I dealt this hand, you can look to your parents and your grandparents and beyond that, because a lot of this is passed on. If I am an abuser, the chances are my children have a much more higher likelihood of being an abuser. If I'm an alcoholic, my children have a higher chance of becoming an alcoholic. The good news is the Bible tells us that the generation that turns to God and reestablishes their broken relationship is a generation that breaks that curse.
That breaks that curse.
So the hand that you were dealt, you do not have to pass on.
That's right. Yes. That's powerful.
And I'm living testimony to that. My life was a mess until I turned to God, and my children are now Christians. My granddaughter was just baptized a year or so ago, and the habits and the sin and the lifestyle choices that I used to make are no longer passed on to my children or grandchildren. That curse has stopped cold. So it's important fundamentally to come into a relationship with God. You have to make a decision at some point on the Bible, whether it's either the inspired Word of God and our standard or it isn't. If it's not, then everything is up for grabs. But if the Bible is a true standard, then we can look to it for guidance in making our choices.
Directions.
And we can look to other people that follow the Bible to come alongside of us. Your friends aren't going to be able to fix your life. Mine aren't, other than the fact I have Christian friends who are good influences now. But most of your friends are in the same boat that you are. So find a mentor, reach out, take the initiative. First of all, recognize if you're getting stuck in one of these stages of grief from having been traumatized. If you have issues with anger or depression or denial, where you're acting in ways of wearing a mask and you can't break free of that, those are symptoms of the fact that you're not working through the things that have traumatized you. And the way to do that is to seek help. And so just to kind of review, most of you, if not all of you, are products of trauma. That's a fundamental problem. When you get hit with a deep loss and you can't grieve through it before you get hit with another and another and another, there comes a point where you develop issues. You get stuck with anger, depression, or a number of the other things that go wrong, and you get stuck in that. And so the first thing is to recognize what's going on.
Yes.
Seek help. Ask yourself, how is this affecting my security, structure, or stability, and make choices that are going to enhance those things, and then get somebody to come alongside you. But above all, consider your relationship with God. He created you for a relationship, not for a religion. We're not talking about a list of rules. We're talking about principles of how things work. God wants to lead you. He doesn't want to drive you with a gun to your head. And foundational to that is the fact that we're all sinners. We can't unsin once we sin, meaning we can't fix ourselves. So God provided the payment for our sin in the person of Jesus Christ. The essence of everything that Harrison and I do comes down to a foundation of reestablishing that broken relationship with God by accepting Jesus Christ as the payment for our sin and agreeing to follow Him and to do things His way, and then learning what His ways are. You can find therapeutic ways to help you get through the day, okay? Therapy being the equivalent of having a broken leg, and I can give you a crutch to help you gimp along.
That's right, yes.
You'll be able to get around, but you're not going to get healed. Healing comes from God. He wants you in a relationship with Him, and there are people willing to come alongside and help. And we're going to be posting more videos going into more detail on some of the aspects of what we've talked about in terms of how to build structure, how to deal with anger, how to deal with depression, and how to deal with your addictions and so forth. But this is kind of an overview and a foundational video just to hopefully get your attention and give you some sense of what's going on in your life and why you hurt. So if you want to contact us, or if there's something we can pray for you, if you are looking for us to try and come alongside, prayers@facingthestorm.org, and our website is facingthestorm.org, and we'll be posting series of videos and also hopefully links to people that are smarter than Harrison and I.
That's right, because believe me, we need people smarter than us.
So we're going to try and build some good resources to go into detail on a lot of the things that we've talked about today and on this video. So God bless you, and if there's any way we can pray for you or help you, email us at prayers@facingthestorm.org. Consider your relationship with God, and understand that God does not want you to be left in a place of torment.